Hi, Bruce Naylor here, and welcome to another episode of the IT Shop. This is my series of videos about being self-employed, using technology, being in the IT industry, and sharing little, tips with you. And I thought I would talk about something most people don't want to talk about, which is failure. In this video, I'm going to give you 3 tips on how to minimize the risk of failure in your next venture. And that's a big order. That's a tall order. You know what? It takes somebody that's been there to know what to do. So I'm going to get to these tips in just a moment. Let's talk a little bit about failure in general. We always remember who won the Super Bowl, who won the presidential election, and so forth. We never really remember the losers. But boy, do they remember losing and how bad it felt. Now, I had a business about 12 years ago that went under. It tanked. Well, maybe it was a little bit less than that, but around that period of time. And it was very hard to recover from that loss. It was in the mortgage banking industry, and after careful review, what caused the failure was several points. One, my business wasn't unique. I was opened up in a saturated market. I tried to grow way too fast. I let my overhead creep up on me, and I spent a lot of time in denial. And those were the main reasons that business crashed and burned and took me and my wife down with it. Okay. So what did I learn from all this? Well, I learned new approaches to doing things that has worked for me, and I want to share them with you in this video. Tip number 1, take a look at your past failures and do a post-mortem on it, an autopsy, if you will. Take them apart, work your way backwards if you have to, but analyze each and everything that led up to the failure. Make a journal of it, remember it, and use that for future reference. It's good to learn. When you do this, you'll not only learn about what happened, but you'll learn a whole lot about yourself. And this can be quite useful in your future endeavors. So always do a complete autopsy or post-mortem, if you like to use that term, on your past failures. Tip number 2. I have since became a student of failure. Yes, I love great success stories and I read them all the time, but I also look at very interesting stories of failure. Well, here's one for you that sticks in my mind, and that's Nikola Tesla. He was basically the inventor of AC, or made it practical, and the AC electric motor and all these things. And he got into a business deal with a company called Westinghouse back in the day, who was rivals with GE from Thomas Edison. The two went to war, and Tesla, he had a bunch of patents on the AC stuff, and he was getting paid a fortune in royalties by Westinghouse. Anyhow, the bottom line was the war between Edison and Westinghouse got so intense that Westinghouse went to Tesla and asked him to stop the royalty payments so they would survive. And because he felt that they had stood by him all the time, he tore up the contract, a contract that would, in adjusted dollars, be well worth over $300 million today. I dare say, if he would have played his card right, he would have been a billionaire. Instead, he ended up dying penniless and alone and almost insane, or maybe even insane, because of that mistake. And that is a huge one. I mean, everybody should know who he is, but a lot of people don't. But without Nikola Tesla, that's kind of a tongue twister for me, we wouldn't have modern AC as we know it today. And we owe a lot to him. But he made a bad decision. He failed in a huge way. But we can all look at different stories of failure. And I think it's important to become a student of failures as well as successes, to keep repeating those. Now, the third tip I have for you, I call it simulation. Here's the thing. Take an airline pilot. They can spend years or even decades flying a commercial aircraft without ever running into an actual life or death emergency on the aircraft. That's why they use simulators, so they can have a lot of emergencies thrown at them very quickly. Well, how does that apply to us in everyday life? And that is, and I've seen this too many times, people shooting from the hip, if you will, for lack of a better term, people that dive headfirst without doing their homework, without consulting their brain trust, their friends, running ideas up the pole, so to speak, and looking at them very carefully, doing a risk analysis before they dive right in. Those kind of things almost always end up in failure. So you need to simulate as much as possible and look at and measure the risk and reward that's involved. The fourth and final tip, I know I said 3, but here's your bonus. And that is, don't live a life trying to avoid risk, but trying to negate risk as much as possible. Nothing of any consequence has ever been achieved by trying to play it safe constantly. You simply can't play it safe and ever make it anywhere. But as a student of failure, you always want to be careful about analyzing the returns on any type of risk that you might undertake. And that is it. Hopefully you might find some of this advice useful. I always enjoy sharing it with you, and I look forward to your comments down below. Talk to you later.